Presidents, we are gathered here this afternoon in Geneva, the capital of international humanitarian law and human rights law, to announce a global appeal on the dire humanitarian situation in the occupied Palestinian territory. There is a need to instill humanity and wisdom and to awaken the conscience of humanity in front of these atrocities committed against innocent Palestinian civilians. 2.5 million people cannot be considered incidental or collateral damage. All human lives are precious and should be protected and respected. The UN Secretary General highlighted, and I quote, "The nightmare in Gaza is more than a humanitarian crisis, it is a crisis of humanity," end of quote. Allow me at the outset, and before passing the floor to my dear colleague, His Excellency Ambassador Ibrahim Khoureisha of the Permanent Observer Mission of Palestine.
أود أن أشكر الزميلات والزملاء ممثلي البعثات الشقيقة والصديقة ومجموعة الدول الإسلامية، وأشكر أيضاً الصحفيين على وجودكم.
Firstly, I should like to thank the brothers and sisters and fellow ambassadors who are here, who represent the friendly and brotherly missions, as well as the OIC, as well as all the journalists that are present with us today.
أعتقد أن هذه المناسبة أيضاً مهمة لتوضيح بعض الحقائق، وأبدأها بأن زملاء لكم الصحفيين والإعلاميين وصل عددهم 45 قد قتلوا على مدار الشهر الماضي.
May I begin by explaining a very evident truth, that is, colleagues of yours who are journalists, 45 of them are amongst the dead up to today.
والمؤسف أن الكذب أصبح وجهة نظر في هذا العالم.
Unfortunately, lying has become pathological and a point of view in this world.
قبل قليل وصلني التحديث الأخير لعدد الشهداء.
I have just received the latest number of the martyrs.
لكن قبل كل شيء نحن لسنا أرقام.
However, before everything, we're not mere numbers.
العالم يشهد أن الفلسطيني إنسان مبدع وخلاق ويساهم وساهم في الحضارة البشرية، بدليل أننا كفلسطينيين قبل اليهودية وقبل المسيحية وقبل الإسلام صنعنا تاريخاً في منطقتنا.
The world knows that Palestinians are human beings who are creative, who are inventive, who have built and participated in the civilization of the world. We have been in Palestine building a civilization before the advent of the Jews, before the advent of Christianity, and since then we have had a great civilization.
فقط سريعاً الأرقام. عدد الشهداء حتى تحديث 10 هذا الشهر وصل 11,025.
The number of martyrs until the 10th of November is 11,025.
هذا في غزة أتحدث.
This is only in Gaza.
منهم 4,506 طفل.
4,506 of them are children.
منهم 3,027 امرأة.
3,027 of them are women.
ومنهم 678 مسناً.
678 of them are elderly.
في الضفة الغربية منذ 7 أكتوبر حتى اليوم 183.
In the West
شهيد.
Bank, 183 martyrs since the 7th of October.
في غزة هناك أكثر من 27,000 جريح.
In Gaza, there is more than 27,000 injured.
في الضفة أكثر من 2,500 جريح أيضاً.
In the West Bank, more than 2,500 injured.
حسب معلومات مؤسسات حقوق إنسان فلسطينية هناك أكثر من 3,000 جثة تحت الأنقاض.
According to the reports of humanitarian organizations in the West Bank, there is more than 3,000 dead people under the rubble.
تابعتم أنه حسب القانون هناك ما يسمى بالأعيان المحمية بالقانون.
You know, under the international law, there are protected buildings and properties.
لم تترك إسرائيل البلد الديمقراطي الوحيد في العالم يبدو، ليس فقط في المنطقة،
Israel, which it seems is the only democracy in the world, not just in the region,
إلا واستهدفت الكنائس والمساجد والمستشفيات والمدارس.
has targeted churches, mosques, hospitals, and schools.
حتى سيارات الإسعاف، أكثر من 50 سيارة إسعاف أصبحت عاطلة بالمطلق.
Not even ambulance cars were spared. More than 50 ambulance cars were destroyed.
أكثر من 250 ألف وحدة سكنية تم تدميرها شاملاً أو جزئياً.
More than 250,000 homes and buildings have been demolished completely or partially.
أكثر من 1.5 مليون فلسطيني تم تهجيرهم قسرياً من شمال قطاع غزة إلى جنوبه.
More than 1.5 million Palestinians have compulsorily been driven out of the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza.
بحيث أن هذا حسب ما أعلن الناطق الرسمي باسم قوة الاحتلال ستكون منطقة آمنة، المنطقة الجنوبية.
As far as I know, the spokesman for the occupation said that the south of Gaza is going to be a peaceful area.
طبعا هم يحاولوا يكذبوا ويستخدموا لوائح لاهاي أو قانون الحرب إنذار المدنيين في منطقة العمليات.
Of course, they used whitewashing, like saying we send out warnings before we demolish buildings.
هذا لم يحصل، وما تسمعوا أن هناك الآن تروس أو تهدئة هي فقط لدفع ما تبقى من الشمال إلى الجنوب.
This did not take place, and what you hear now about a specific truce, the truce is to be used mainly to drive the remaining Palestinians from the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza.
وفي الأسبوع الأول كان المخطط الإسرائيلي هو طرد سكان قطاع غزة كاملاً إلى سيناء.
The first week, their plan was to drive out and expel and destitute all the Palestinians in Gaza, out of Gaza, to the Sinai desert,
الأمر الذي رفضه أولاً أبناء شعبنا الفلسطيني،
which was firstly rejected by our Palestinian people,
وكذلك المجموعة العربية ومصر بالتحديد حيث أنها المعني الأول بالحدود المشتركة.
as well as the Arab group and Egypt in particular, as it is the main country concerned regarding the shared borders.
وهذا ما كان يخطط له أيضاً على الجانب الآخر بالضفة بمعنى الأردن.
This was also what was being planned for the other side of the bank, which is the side neighboring Jordan.
وكان هناك موقف أيضاً واضح من قبل المملكة الأردنية الهاشمية بهذا الاتجاه.
Similarly, Jordan had a very clear position on the expelling out of Palestinians to Jordan.
للأسف سمعنا في التاريخ كثير من الإبادات الجماعية.
Unfortunately, we have heard a lot of cases of genocide all along our human history.
لكننا الآن نشاهد إبادة جماعية متلفزة.
However, today, the genocide is taking place in full view of the whole world on TV screens.
نحن من حيث المبدأ ضد استهداف المدنيين من أي طرف كان.
In principle, we're against targeting civilians, whoever they are or whichever party they represent.
منذ 30 عام اعترفنا بإسرائيل.
30 years ago, we recognized Israel,
وأدنا كل أشكال العنف والإرهاب.
and we condemned all forms of violence.
وأكدنا بأن الشرعية الدولية والقانون الدولي والمقاومة السلمية هي الطريق للوصول لممارسة شعبنا الفلسطيني لحقه في تقرير المصير على الأراضي التي احتلت عام 67 بما فيها القدس الشرقية.
And we have always confirmed that peaceful resistance, the enactment of the legality, it should be the basis for the Palestinian people living within their free country from the borders of 1967 with Jerusalem as its capital.
عندما وقعنا اتفاق أوسلو كان هناك 120 ألف مستوطن في الضفة الغربية.
When we signed Oslo, the number of settlers was 120,000 in the West Bank.
now هم 750 ألف مستوطن في الضفة الغربية.
Today, they number 750,000 settlers.
يرتكبون كل أشكال البشاعة والانتهاك للقانون والإجرام ضد المدنيين الفلسطينيين.
They commit all forms of atrocities, murder, and heinous acts against the Palestinian civilians.
وتابعتم على مدار السنوات وعملت مع زملائي المتواجدين منهم والذين غادروا وأطلعناهم على الانتهاكات اليومية وتدنيسهم لأماكن العبادة وتحديداً المسجد الأقصى.
And I think you are well aware of their history of atrocities, which we have been discussing with you and with your predecessors here, where we have explained their daily crimes and the way they defile even the holy places of worship. Foremost of them is the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
وتابعتم عربدة المستوطنين واستهدافهم للمدنيين الفلسطينيين وما حصل في حوارة عندما تم حرقها.
You have followed the atrocities of the settlers and what happened in Hawara when they have burnt the civilians.
وعندما تم حرق عائلة الدوابشة.
When they have torched a whole family, Al-Dawabshe family.
عندما حرق الطفل محمد أبو حميد في القدس.
When Muhammad Abu Hamid, a child from Jerusalem, was burnt alive.
حتى الحيوانات تم حرقها وقتلها.
Even animals and plants are not spared.
ووزير الدفاع أو ما يسمى بالدفاع وزير القوى القائمة بالاحتلال جلاند أعلن يوم 9 من أكتوبر الماضي.
The Minister of Defense, or what is called their Minister of Defense, declared on the 9th of October
بأنه قرر قطع الماء والكهرباء
that they have decided to cut water, electricity,
الكهرباء والوقود
fuel,
والكهرباء
and electricity,
ولاحقا تم قطع أيضا الإنترنت.
followed by cutting off the internet and all communications.
ووصف الشعب الفلسطيني بأنه يتعامل معنا كحيوانات بشرية.
And he did describe the Palestinian people as animals, that he deals with them the way he would deal with an animal.
لكن الحيوانات عندها مشاعر أكثر من وزير الدفاع الإسرائيلي.
However, I believe the animals have a bigger heart and feel more human than the Israeli Minister of Defense.
ما يجري الآن ليس حربا بين إسرائيل ومقاتلي حماس.
What is taking place now is not a war between Israel and the fighters of Hamas.
إنما هو إبادة للشعب الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة ومحاولات أن يمتد ذلك إلى الضفة الغربية.
It is a genocide against the Palestinian people and with serious attempt for it to spread to the West Bank and continue the genocide there.
أنا عملت هنا منذ 12 عام.
I've been here for 12 years.
وكنت مؤمنا ولا زلت رغم الصعوبة بأن هناك شيء اسمه حقوق الإنسان.
I believed and I continue to believe that there is something called human rights.
لكنني متفاجئ ومحبط وغاضب على تعامل البعض مع هذه المعايير التي توافقت عليها المجموعة الدولية بعد ويلات الحرب العالمية الثانية.
I am now sad, frustrated, and angry at the way the world is undermining human rights after the whole world had come together to believe in the sanctity of human rights after the worst war that the humanity witnessed, which is the Second World War.
وخاصة ازدواجية المعايير التي
What's more
نشاهد.
shocking is the double standards.
هناك كارثة أخلاقية وقانونية وعنصرية.
There are no morality, there is no law. There is no law that is being applied, and there is a racial attitude, racism.
أنا لا أفهم إطلاقا من يقوم من أي دولة كانت بإدانة عمل حماس الإرهابي وبشدة، وعندما يأتي الأمر إلى آلاف الأطفال والنساء يقول يجب احترام القانون الدولي. هذا الأسلوب معيب، يجب وقفه. هذا الاستهتار في البشرية يجب وقفه. أين نسير؟
I do not understand those who rush to condemn and demand to condemn the acts by Hamas. However, at the same time, they refuse to condemn the murder of children and women in the West Bank. I believe this is a shameful attitude. This is something that humanity should be ashamed of.
قطعت الكهرباء في أوكرانيا فترة كما سمعت والماء، وخرجت رئيسة الاتحاد الأوروبي لتقول بأن هذا جريمة حرب في أوكرانيا.
Water and electricity were cut off in Ukraine. The head of the European Union came out and declared that this is a war crime.
لا أريد أن أتحدث أكثر حول هذا الموضوع، ولكن أنتقل إلى محطة أخرى، وهو ما يسمى بمجلس الأمن المعني بالأمن والسلم الدوليين.
We can speak at length about this. However, I shall move to another chapter, which is the Security Council.
هناك عجز مطلق حتى هذه اللحظة.
We feel that the Security Council has proven to be completely crippled until this very moment.
45 مرة تم استخدام الفيتو من قبل أمريكا لحماية إسرائيل.
45 times America voted and used the veto to protect Israel.
هذا مما شجع إسرائيل أن تمارس وتعتبر نفسها فوق القانون.
Obviously, this encouraged Israel to behave as a state above the law.
فلذلك يجب أن يعمل العقلاء في هذا العالم
Thus, I feel it is time for the wise people
والحكماء منه بأن يتم احترام القانون وإنفاذه. هناك الكثير من القواعد القانونية المهمة، لكن المشكلة يراد لها أن تنفذ في أوكرانيا أو غيرها من الدول، وعندما يأتي الأمر إلى إسرائيل نرى موقفاً مخجلاً أقل ما يسمى.
There are a plethora of international laws that can be applied. However, they are applied fully when it comes to Ukraine. When it comes to us, they are put aside, they're violated, they're not used, they're belittled.
يبدو أن الأعمال العسكرية ستستمر لفترة في قطاع غزة.
I believe that military action will continue for a long time or for a certain time in Gaza.
وبنظرة سريعة تجد أن هناك حرب عالمية تشن ضد غزة.
And if you take a global look on the world, you will feel that there is a world war being waged against Gaza.
وأريد أن أخاطب من يسموا أنفسهم بأنهم العالم الحر.
I should like to address myself to those who call themselves the free world.
يجب عليكم أن تعملوا من أجل وقف إطلاق النار وشلال الدم.
You have to do your utmost to stop the bloodshed and to reach a ceasefire.
وأن تحاولوا الالتفاف بأننا مع تقديم المساعدات وقدمنا هنا 100 مليون وهنا 50 مليون.
And this is not a pretext to say that we are giving assistance 50 million here, 100 million here.
عليكم أن تعملوا معنا من أجل إنهاء لب المشكلة.
You have to work with us in order to attack the crux of the problem.
بمعنى إنهاء الاحتلال.
Meaning ending the occupation.
وأن يفسح لشعبنا ممارسة حقه في تقرير المصير.
And that our people will have the right to self-determination.
وحل مشكلة اللاجئين حسب قرارات الشرعية الدولية.
and to reach a solution for the refugees problem by virtue of the international and United Nations resolutions and laws.
وما بعد ما يحصل علينا جميعا أن نعمل من أجل إنفاذ قرار مجلس الأمن 242.
In view of what's happening, we should all unite in order to bring into action Resolution 242 of the Security Council.
وبعدها سنكون شاكرين لكل الأصدقاء ولكل الأشقاء وكل العالم الذي قدم العون للأونروا ومساعدات للشعب الفلسطيني، لكن أريد أن أكرر وأؤكد أن المسألة الآن ليس قليلا من الطعام وقليلا من الماء، أولا وقف الدماء.
I should like now to thank all those who provided humanitarian assistance, food, waters, whatever, to the Palestinian people. And I thank you all for this. However, what we should concentrate now is to stop the bloodshed.
شكرا.
In just 1 month, and according to the Palestinian health officials, more than 11,000 Palestinians have been killed, more than 75% of whom are children, women and the elderly. More than 26,000 Palestinians have been injured, while hospitals are coming to a halt due to the cutting off of fuel and electricity to the civilian population in Gaza. Doctors are performing surgery without anesthesia. Mothers are watching their babies fighting for survival in incubators that are running out of electricity. The only cancer hospital in Gaza has been shut down, while other hospitals are bombed. Moreover, more than 50 entire families have been wiped off the population registry in Gaza. They have been decimated. Moreover, according to the UN, scores of aid workers have been killed, including 88 UNRWA colleagues, the highest number of United Nations fatalities ever recorded in a single conflict. Furthermore, according to multiple sources, the number of Palestinian children reported killed in Gaza in just 3 weeks has surpassed the annual number of children killed across the world's conflict zones since 2019. Civilian objects, including refugee camps, apartment buildings, schools, ambulances, and bakeries, mosques, churches, have been directly targeted and reduced to rubble. At least 45% of all housing in Gaza has been either destroyed, rendered uninhabitable, or damaged. The reverberating effects of the use of explosive weapons on hospitals, schools, food security, water, electricity, and shelter are affecting millions. These figures are tragic and unprecedented. The undersigned permanent missions to the UN in Geneva, guided by the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, call for an immediate ceasefire, urge the international community to exert maximum pressure to ensure immediate emergency humanitarian access and assistance and restoration of basic human necessities, food, water, fuel, and electricity, to the Palestinian population in Gaza. Call for the release of all hostages and political detainees. Take action to ensure adequate safeguards to the protection and immunity of civilian facilities protected under the Geneva Conventions, especially the United Nations safe shelters, which include the UNRWA schools that are used as emergency shelters for displaced civilians. Take action to put an end to the forcible transfer of Palestinians within or from Gaza. Call to protect Palestinian civilian lives as demanded by international humanitarian law and United Nations resolutions, and call for international protection for the Palestinian people. urge Israel to grant immediate access to the independent International United Nations Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel. Emphasize the importance of addressing and eradicating the root causes of the current crisis and recurrent cycles of violence. The international community must act now on their solemn obligations under international law. The sooner the international community takes action through the countless tools it has at its disposal, the faster bloodshed will end, lives and human suffering spared, and peace and coexistence prevail. Thank you.
دينا أبي صعب، تلفزيون روسيا اليوم وعدة قنوات عربية. سؤال موجه لسعادة السفير المصري ولسعادة السفيرة القطرية حول عملية التبادل. أستطرد على السؤال اللي ذكره صديقنا. هناك نسمع دائما عن عمليات للتبادل للأسرى والمعتقلين.
Thank you. There are contacts that are taking place with all the parties concerned, and we hope they will lead to the resolution of this problem to release hostages. And let me also add that we want also to spare the 2.5 million Palestinians who are hostage to this dramatic situation as well. Thank you.
شكرا. تعمل دولة قطر منذ بداية الأزمة على تهدئة الأوضاع بما في ذلك إطلاق سراح عدد من الرهائن حسب الاتفاق ونسيت عفوا بما في ذلك إطلاق الأسرى
Qatar has
والرهائن.
been working since the beginning of the crisis to bring some kind of understanding and working hard in order to release some of the prisoners and captives.
وذلك بالتنسيق المباشر مع شركائنا بما فيهم الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية.
In direct coordination with our partners, including the United States of America.
ولكن للأسف مثل تهدئة الأمور وإطلاق السراح يصعب الموضوع أكثر صعوبة في ظل الأحداث المتصاعدة، وأيضا بما في ذلك وقف بعض الخدمات بما فيها الكهربائية والإنترنت.
أنا أريد أن أسأل العقول الحقوقية والقانونية أن ترني أي بند في القانون يسمح لقوة تقوم بالاحتلال بالدفاع عن نفسها.
I should like to address myself to all the lawyers and legal minds here to give me which article in any international law or convention that allows people to kill others in order to defend themselves. That allows an occupier to kill in self-defense.
لأنه هناك واضح في مادة 51 في الميثاق توضح كل هذا الأمر.
Article 51 of the Charter fully explains this matter.
لكن الميثاق وقرارات عديدة من الجمعية العامة واتفاقية جنيف تعطي الذي يقع تحت الاحتلال الحق المطلق بالدفاع عن النفس.
However, the Charter and the Geneva Convention and many international resolutions seem to, they give the right to every human being the right to self-defense against occupation.
وهذا الأمر ليس الآن، يعني منذ فترة نسمع دائما يردد بأن لإسرائيل الحق في الدفاع عن نفسها. كيف ذلك كقوة قائمة بالاحتلال؟ أين هو هذا الحق؟
And therefore we just don't understand the logic that any Israeli, as an occupying force and Israel as an occupying country, everybody continues to say that the first thing they have the right to self-defense. How do you understand that? How can one explain that or justify that?
لأنه هذا يعطي إسرائيل الضوء الأخضر بأن تستمر بهذه الجرائم.
This is a green light for Israel to continue its carnage.
أنا تفاجأت بما سمعته قبل أسبوعين بأن سويسرا قررت تعليق المساعدات ل11 مؤسسة حقوقية.
I was myself surprised when I heard that the Federal Council had decided to suspend all the assistance it delivered to Palestinian organizations
and Israel.
and Israel.
Yeah. أنا ممثل فلسطين أيضا لدى سويسرا.
I am the permanent representative of Palestine to Switzerland. So
وأنا أعرف أن سويسرا تتبع سياسة الحياد.
I know that Switzerland is a country that is
الحياد
neutral.
neutrality. والتقيت مع وزارة الخارجية السويسرية قبل أسبوعين للاستفسار حول هذا الأمر.
I've met with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Switzerland to discuss this matter with them.
عبرنا عن رفضنا واستهجاننا من هذا الموقف.
We expressed our rejection and our surprise at this decision.
ونتوقع منهم خلال فترة قصيرة أن يتم حل هذا الموضوع.
We expect that shortly a solution will be coming forth.
أحيانا التسرع ليس سياسة.
Sometimes hastiness is not politics
Okay.
or diplomacy.
موسى عاصي من قناة الميادين العربية. السؤال موجه لسعادة سفير مصر. المفوض السامي قال اليوم بأن أو طالب جميع الأطراف بالتزام وقف إطلاق النار أو بإجراء هدنة من أجل إدخال المساعدات. أولاً لماذا المساعدات لا تدخل حتى الآن من رفح؟ ومن هي الجهة التي لا تلتزم أو لا تريد وقف إطلاق النار من أجل إدخال هذه المساعدات؟ شكراً.
Thank you for the question.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah,
Can
please
I
translate.
repeat the question? Yeah. The High Commissioner said today that he called upon all parties to the difficulties to put an end to the fighting, to ceasefire, or to arrive at a ceasefire, and to allow for the humanitarian assistance to enter. However, my question is that where are they going to come from? Are they going to come from Rafah?
Let me say that we have never closed the Rafah border crossing from the Egyptian side. The Rafah border crossing is one of 6 border crossings around Gaza, 5 of which are under the control of the Israeli authorities. And in the current circumstances, we deplore the obstruction of the entry of humanitarian assistance, and all of us have seen the convoys and the long lines of trucks between Rafah and El Arish waiting for the opportunity to enter into Gaza, and to enter into Gaza in the north and in the south alike. And in the current circumstances, we find that the humanitarian assistance has to go from Rafah to the Ninsana border from the side of the Israelis, and then come back for a total of 100 kilometers before they enter from Rafah. I think that in the best circumstances before the war started, there were hundreds of trucks entering into Gaza. Even if the Egyptian Rafah border crossing were to operate by the maximum, it will not be enough. We need to think of getting access to Gaza from all the crossings, also from the sea, and why not from the air, as some have tried. It is a humanitarian crisis of all proportions in the north and in the south of Gaza alike, and we need to all help the humanitarian community in reaching those who are in need, and they are in dire need, and we are all helping them, when we hope that the efforts underway and the contacts between all the parties in the current moment will lead to the ceasefire that is badly needed. Thank you very much.
آخر سؤال.
Presence of any European or Western ambassador in this event.
أنا
What is your explanation?
I saw some of them, but maybe they are not joining our call, the joint call, but they were attending here, and my colleague ambassador of Netherlands, and there is some of the European missions also between us, but maybe this call was not early discussed with all, but I know that many of the Europeans, and there is now changes, they have their principal position. As a human also, we have to work all and to work for this call. It's signed by the OIC countries except Albania and many of our friendly countries like China. If you want to give you the names for you, maybe it's good to know. Many that are following, but now I have on my list Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Venezuela, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, Russia, China, Belarus, Zimbabwe, and there is others, and Mexico, and Gambia. The Gambia is OIC, so there is a lot, maybe some I didn't catch, but we hope that we will all join the efforts for ceasefire. I will repeat, ceasefire and the humanitarian access. And I hope that the body that we were always counting on, Security Council, will go ahead for taking a strong position to halt all of that and to decide to cease fire. Is there some? Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Senegal.
I think that my second question was not really well
Which one?
responded. When I was talking about the response. My question is, if it is possible for your government in Palestine or even the United Nations to put into trial Israel for failing its responsibility to protect Palestinians. Thank you.
Israel failed from the beginning, after the declaration of independence and the becoming member of the UN, by not implementing what was being agreed before. First of all, the resolution 181 of the General Assembly and 194 on the refugees. So the Israeli refusal and violations of the international legal norms, all legal norms, since the beginning. So it's not new. And when it becomes the occupying power after 1967, Israel not recognizing that Geneva conventions apply on Palestine. And they are members of all of that. But the problem, as I said, they have blind support from some, so they are encouraging them. And it seems that Israel now, by this way, is designing a new international world order to lead the world with it. So we should be careful where we are. This chaos should stop, and this jungle law should stop, and to return back to the right track, the international legitimacy. And I thank you all.